Hi, welcome back to Can You Say That? It's our series on political correctness and freedom of speech and cancel culture in a world that sometimes is trying to figure out what they can say and not say. I'm Jeff Dixon, I'm your host for that. I want to talk for a minute about political correctness. Sometimes the biggest threat to free speech is not other people, but it can be the government. One of the most powerful things about free speech is being able to say things that other people disagree with. That's an important part of democracy, and it's an important part of being free. And it's so essential that we all know that and value that. People usually won't try to control what we say if they agree with us, but there are a lot of people out there that want to control what we say when they disagree with us. Political correctness is one way that people try to control what others say. Political correctness is when people aren't allowed to talk about something because it might offend someone. That's bad because it censors people from talking about important issues just because they might offend someone else. Some people use political correctness to keep people from talking about conservative values or faith in God because it might offend people who don't believe in faith or God. Even though we should respect other people's beliefs, we also have the right to expect them to respect our belief. And as a result, there's a balancing act that always has to take place. And we should never have to feel ashamed or bad because of what we believe. And yet sometimes you hear, oh, you can't talk about that here. You can't say that here because that might offend someone else. I think you see the problem with that. We live in a day and age where people get offended so easily. And here's where you have to be real careful, just like I do, about drawing the line. Only you can give me the power to offend you. Nothing I should say should offend you. And I only have that kind of power in your arena if you choose to give it to me. And so you and I then also, with our freedom of speech, in the world that we live in, with our First Amendment rights, have to be very, very careful about who we give that kind of power to. That means that I have the freedom to flip through television stations, and I can go to various assorted news stations. And I can go and find a news station that's going to say something that will line up with maybe my political point of view. I'll probably stay there and I'll probably listen to that station. I also have the freedom to go and find someone that disagrees with my point of view, and I can have the freedom to listen to that, and I have the freedom to get angry about that, or I have the freedom to sit there and laugh about that. And the difference is, how much freedom do I give them? You ever seen late night television? It's changed over the course of the years, but right now, late night television, at least in our nation, is no longer funny and it's no longer comedy. What it really is a political commentary. And we have a certain number of so-called people who used to be comedians who are now commentators. And they say things, but it's always one slighted way. It's slanted in one direction or the other, and it's not designed to cater to one group of people. It's always designed to be a different group of people. So, is that funny? I don't know. Yes, it is to some people. Is it funny to me? Sometimes no. But I have the freedom not to watch that. I have the freedom not to listen to that. And I have the freedom to make that choice for myself. What I don't have the freedom to do is to become a crusader saying that they shouldn't be allowed to say that, or I don't like that, or that's not funny to me, or that irritates me. I can say that all I want, and that expression of opinion is my opinion alone, but it doesn't mean that they don't have the right to do what they're doing. And so we find ourselves in a very funny place these days with political correctness because we're so worried about being politically correct and we're afraid to offend people. But the problem is that truth always tends to be offensive to someone, doesn't it? So when you speak truth in a world that's more comfortable with lies, guess what's offensive? Truth. So guess what political correctness would try to silence? Truth. And guess who the father of lies really is? Satan. And as a result of that, then we find ourselves in a world where sometimes the things that we need to say that are true are silenced under the idea, well, that's not politically correct, you can't say that. And the struggle is on. And so for us, trying to live our lives and live our lives by embracing the First Amendment becomes so much more serious. And if you're a person of faith, and you're a person who calls yourself a Christian, then you also have a responsibility to make sure that you're fleshing this out in a way that honors God, but at the same time navigates a world where you can hear things that you not only will disagree with, but if you're not careful, you will give people the power to offend you. Don't. Trust me when I tell you this. God doesn't need your help in defending him. And God understands what it means to have people turn on them. But God doesn't want you to give people the power to offend you. And once you learn that, then you have the opportunity to speak back and speak truth into a world sometimes where the lies seem to be so loud. So, a little bit more spiritual conversation now, isn't it? And that's what it becomes. As we continue to look at political correctness, we ask the question, can you say that? And we'll come back next time and continue to address this in our next episode.